Have you ever known someone like this? Someone who was deeply hurt by emotional neglect in a past relationship. And after finally moving on, found their new partner becoming distant and cold again. Or someone who once had a selfish partner who constantly took without giving, leaving them drained, and now, in a new relationship, still ends up with someone who always asks for favors but rarely gives back. Maybe you've experienced something similar yourself. You know a certain type of person will hurt you. Yet you still can't help falling for them. You've been wounded in past relationships. Yet somehow you keep finding yourself in the same painful situations. You might wonder, am I just bad at choosing people? Or, why'd I always meet the same kind of person? In fact, it's not necessarily about poor judgment or bad luck. It's a psychological phenomenon known as repetition compulsion, where individuals unconsciously recreate familiar emotional patterns from the past in an attempt to gain mastery over them or seek resolution. What is repetition compulsion? The concept of repetition compulsion was first introduced by Sigmund Freud and later expanded by Anna Freud and other psychoanalysts. In essence, it describes a psychological tendency in which an individual, often unconsciously, recreates painful or unresolved situations from earlier life experiences, even when these repetitions lead to suffering. This happens because familiarity can create an illusion of control. The person may unconsciously believe that, by doing things right this time, they can finally correct or master what once went wrong. Simply put, repetition compulsion means falling into the same pit again and again, driven by the same underlying emotional patterns each time. This phenomenon is not limited to romantic relationships. It can manifest in many areas of life. For example, someone who was often overlooked or dismissed as a child may repeatedly enter relationships where they give excessively but receive little appreciation. Or a person who grew up with emotionally unavailable parents might unconsciously be drawn to distant partners. Because, even though that coldness is painful, it feels familiar. Deep down, they may hold the belief, if I can just do better this time, they'll finally love or notice me. Yet the outcome is often the same: renewed disappointment and emotional pain. At its core, repetition compulsion reflects the interplay between the human need for familiarity and the unconscious drive to repair old wounds. A cycle that continues until the original emotional injury is consciously recognized and healed. The psychological causes of repetition compulsion. We fall into repetition compulsion not because we enjoy suffering, but because early life experiences plant invisible seeds in our minds, shaping emotional patterns that we unconsciously repeat as adults. Psychologists have identified three main psychological causes behind this phenomenon. 1. The obsession with unfinished events. Psychologist Kurt Lewin introduced the idea of unfinished events in his field theory, which was later developed by his student Bluma Zeigarnik into what we now call the Zeigarnik effect. It suggests that unresolved experiences, unmet needs, or uncompleted emotional tasks remain active in our subconscious as lingering fixations. We unconsciously try to recreate similar situations in order to finish what was once left incomplete, to make up for what we once lacked. For example, a child who was constantly criticized or rejected by their parents carries an unresolved need to prove their worth and earn approval. As an adult, this person may repeatedly be drawn to critical or emotionally demanding partners, subconsciously hoping, this time, if I do better, they'll finally recognize me. But the outcome is often the same. They experience rejection again, trapped in a painful cycle of trying and failing. This repetition isn't intentional. It's driven by unconscious emotional dynamics. And most of the time, we don't even realize it's happening. 2. The false sense of security brought by familiarity. Humans are naturally drawn to what feels familiar, even when that familiarity is painful. According to attachment theory, our early experiences with caregivers shape what's known as an internal working model, a subconscious template for how relationships are expected to function. If, during childhood, someone experienced relationships marked by neglect or criticism, their internal model may come to define that pattern as normal. As adults, they may unconsciously seek partners who fit this familiar dynamic, because it gives them a sense of safety and predictability, even though that sense of security is ultimately false. For example, A person who grew up with parents who were both critical and loving may develop the belief that people who are strict or demanding are the ones who truly care about me. As a result, they may repeatedly choose harsh or emotionally demanding partners. Although being criticized is painful, that dynamic feels reassuringly familiar, whereas being treated with consistent gentleness can feel foreign or even uncomfortable. 3. The impact of cognitive biases. Our early experiences also shape our self-concept, the inner belief system about who I am and what I deserve. If, as a child, someone frequently heard messages like, "You're not good enough," or "You're useless," they may internalize the belief, "I don't deserve to be treated well." In adulthood, this distorted self-perception can unconsciously attract people who mirror that low sense of worth, or even lead them to create situations where they are mistreated, in order to confirm the belief, "I'm not worthy of love." For example, someone who believes, "I'm not good enough, no one will truly love me," might feel uneasy or distrustful when they meet someone kind and caring. Thinking, "This can't be real, sooner or later they'll leave." As a result, they may unintentionally push the other person away, and when that happens, it reinforces their negative belief. Conversely, when they encounter someone who treats them poorly, it often feels more believable, as if to say, "Yes, this is who I am, this is what I deserve." Thus, they become trapped in self-perpetuating relationships that continuously validate their distorted self-image. Why you keep falling for the same wrong type of person? In relationships, one of the clearest signs of repetition compulsion is the pattern of always falling for the same wrong type of person. This isn't a coincidence. It's your subconscious filtering for people who match your internal working model of love and attachment. Psychologists have identified 3 main reasons why this happens. 1. The subconscious matches early relationship patterns. We are often unconsciously drawn to people who resemble our early caregivers. Usually our parents. Someone who was emotionally ignored by their father as a child may later fall for emotionally distant partners. Someone who was controlled by their mother may find themselves attracted to dominant or controlling partners. These partners' behaviors mirror the familiar dynamics from childhood, activating the subconscious internal working model and creating the sense that this is what a relationship is supposed to feel like. For example, imagine someone who grew up with a family member who constantly relied on them for help. From a young age, they learned that love means taking care of others. As an adult, they're often drawn to needy or demanding partners. That sense of dependence feels familiar, even if it's draining. They can't help but keep giving, because deep down they believe that to love is to give endlessly. 2. The illusion of rewriting the ending. Another reason we keep falling for the same wrong type of person comes from a powerful psychological illusion. This time will be different. I can change them. I can rewrite the ending. Someone who was once hurt by an unfaithful partner may, upon meeting another similar person, think, "They're not like the last one, I can make this work." Someone who was wounded by a selfish partner may believe, "I can teach this person how to love and give." In reality, this desire to rewrite the ending stems from a subconscious wish to heal old emotional wounds, to finally succeed where we once failed. But the truth is, people rarely change simply because someone else tries hard enough. More often than not, the same story repeats, they stay the same, and we end up hurt again. No matter how much effort we invest, we cannot change another person's core patterns. The only person we can truly change is ourselves. 3. Seeking familiarity and ignoring warning signs. When we meet someone who fits our familiar emotional pattern, we often unconsciously magnify their positive traits and overlook the red flags right in front of us. For example, when we're drawn to someone who is emotionally hot and cold, we may take their occasional warmth as proof that they do care, while minimizing or rationalizing their long-term emotional neglect. When we're attracted to a demanding or dependent partner, we might interpret their neediness as trust or emotional closeness, ignoring the fact that they rarely reciprocate. This kind of selective blindness happens because we crave the sense of safety that comes with familiarity, and we're driven by a deep wish to heal the wounds of the past. Yet in doing so, we keep walking into the same emotional traps, again and again. How to break the cycle? The first step to escaping the loop of repetition compulsion is to become aware of your patterns. To notice who you're drawn to. And why. You don't have to change everything overnight. Start with these 3 gradual steps. And you'll slowly begin to shift the pattern. Step 1. Recognize your repetitive patterns. The first step is to clearly identify the relationship patterns you keep repeating. Take a piece of paper and write down your last 3 relationships, or significant emotional connections. Note details such as your partner's personality, what aspects of the relationship caused you pain, why you were initially attracted to them. Then, look for common themes. For example, they were all emotionally distant. I was always the one giving more. Each breakup happened because I felt neglected. Once you identify these recurring elements, you'll begin to see your pattern more clearly. For instance, someone might realize that all their partners were emotionally hot and cold, and that each time they felt the pain of being ignored. Only then do they recognize that they've been unconsciously recreating the same dynamic of emotional neglect they experienced in childhood. Awareness is always the first step toward change, because only when you understand what you're repeating can you begin to consciously shift it. Step 2. Break the familiarity and try new choices. When you notice yourself feeling drawn to someone who fits your familiar pattern, pause before diving in. Ask yourself 2 questions. Who does this person remind me of? Am I about to repeat the same kind of pain again? If your honest answers are, they remind me of someone from my past, or, I might get hurt in the same way again, gently remind yourself, I don't have to fall into the same trap twice. At the same time, make an effort to interact with people who don't fit your usual pattern. For example, if you're usually attracted to dominant or controlling people, try getting to know those who are gentle and respectful. If you tend to be drawn to passive people, try connecting with someone who communicates their needs openly. At first, this might feel uncomfortable or unfamiliar, because it's different from what your subconscious defines as normal. But over time, you'll begin to realize that healthy relationships can feel safe and balanced, even without repeating the pain of the past. Step 3. Heal your early self-perception bias. The key to breaking the cycle is to heal the negative self-beliefs formed early in life. You can do this through 2 gentle practices: self-affirmation and reality testing. Self-affirmation. Spend a few minutes each day repeating kind and empowering statements to yourself, such as, I deserve to be treated with care. My efforts are worth being seen. I don't need to please others to be loved. At first, these words may feel unnatural or even untrue, but with time, they begin to reshape how you see yourself. Reality testing. When you catch yourself thinking, I don't deserve to be treated well, look for real-life evidence that challenges this belief. For example, my friends check in on me. My coworkers appreciate my efforts. When I was in trouble, someone offered to help. These real experiences remind you that your old self-image isn't the full truth. You are, in fact, worthy of love and kindness. For instance, someone who once believed, I'm not good enough, might start noting down moments when others praised or appreciated them. Gradually, they begin to realize, I have many strengths, and I am worthy of love. When that inner belief shifts, they will no longer feel drawn to people who devalue or dismiss them. And that's when the painful cycle finally ends. Falling into repetition compulsion isn't your fault. And it's not because you're unlucky in love. It happens because early experiences leave deep marks on the heart, quietly guiding you to repeat familiar patterns without realizing it. But you can break free, gradually, through awareness and conscious choice. You don't have to relive the same pain to heal old wounds, nor cling to familiar suffering just to feel safe. True safety doesn't come from the familiar. It comes from knowing that you deserve care, respect, and peace. You are worthy of love that feels calm and secure. Starting today, notice your patterns, and choose differently, even if it feels unfamiliar at first. You'll discover that love doesn't always have to hurt. It can be gentle, steady, and warm.